less. And that's the same answer I get no matter where I speak all across this nation. So we understand something, right? In a big picture sense, the church is no longer affecting the culture out there. But the culture sure is affecting the church. Particularly with many younger people. So there must be a competing worldview that's gaining a little more traction than the Christian worldview. Now I can talk about all sorts of different worldviews as an apologist, different cults, different religions, etc. But let's put our worldview to the side for a second. And let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum of the Christian worldview. And that would be the atheistic worldview. You guys know what an atheist is? Atheos. No God. Someone who declares there is no God. Now, all worldviews need to answer the same questions. Where do we come from? What's the meaning of life? What happens when you die? Now, if you're an atheist, how do you understand these questions? How do you understand any information? Well, if you presuppose that there is no God, then you would only accept natural explanations for everything. Because there's no supernatural, right? Everything's just matter and energy. There's no intelligent designer. There's no revelation from a holy book. There's nothing but matter and energy. That's all there is. And man gets to decide what truth is. It is not revealed to him. Right? There's no revelation. Give it a good example of a modern-day atheist. That would be Professor Richard Dawkins. How many people have heard of Dawkins? Who hasn't? He's the most popular atheist on the planet, right? He writes all sorts of books, like things like The God Delusion. You can tell where he's coming from with that title, right? If you believe in God, you're nuts, right? He's said all sorts of things over the years. He said things like, if you're a parent or a grandparent and you teach your kids about God, that's child abuse. You should have your kids taken away from you and put in a public institution. This is my typical Canadian response. In churches. You know, we're Canadian, right? We're laid back. You guys are Chinese and Canadian, so you're really laid back, it seems like. But anyway, you know, I mean, if I say something like that down in the U.S. when I'm speaking down there, it's like, shh, like, whoa, dude. You know, I'm Canadian. He's from the U.K. They get pretty excited about stuff like that down in the U.S. Maybe we should get a little more excited too, guys. That was it. That was over the top. Did you hear that? You guys are way too wild. Yeah, did you guys hear about the 15 Mennonite families in Quebec just a couple of years ago? They had their own private Christian school. The government came in and said, you must teach these children homosexuality is a positive lifestyle and evolution is fact, or we're going to take your kids from you. Did you guys hear about that? That's a private Christian school. You guys excited about the government being able to come in and tell you what to tell your kids? What you have to teach your kids? I thought that's something like mind control, isn't it? Doesn't sound like Canada, does it? I thought this was a free thought society. Isn't that what you guys get taught here at the university? Free thinking? Doesn't sound very free, does it? Interesting. Anyway, okay, let's get back to the topic here. You're an atheist. It's got to start somewhere. Where does it all start? Well, it's usually some form of the Big Bang, right? Cosmic evolution. Some uncaused explosion billions of years ago. Hydrogen starts to coalesce. Stars and galaxies form. Where'd the Earth come from? Well, Earth's a hot molten blob, right? That's geological evolution. It's hurtling through space, gradually cools down, gets covered in about 70% water. By the way, part of geological evolution would be all those rock layers you ever driving along, and you see all the rock layers with the dead things in there, the fossils. That's part of geological evolution. But in order to get dead things, you need live things. So where'd life come from? Well, that's chemical evolution, right? In some warm, soupy pond, or at the bottom of the heat vents in the ocean billions of years ago, some non-living chemicals just came together and formed some kind of life form. Well, where did we get all the biodiversity on the planet? Well, see, that's called biological evolution. Through natural selection and genetic mutation, one kind morphs into a completely different kind over millions of years, culminating in ape-like creatures who get bigger brains, and here we are talking about it tonight. That's the story, isn't it? Yeah, that's the story I got taught as fact in public schools all my life. Let me guess, that's the story that you're getting taught as fact and science as well. What's the eschatology like in this worldview? Well, you study the law of thermodynamics. Very exciting stuff, right? All the available energy in the universe is winding down. Eventually we will get to the point of heat death. And then the universe will die, and it'll never know we were ever here. Does that sound familiar to you guys? Yeah. Does that have anything to do with what the Bible teaches? No. See, I know most Christians are educated in public education systems, so when I go through that, they're sitting there going, yeah, but that's science. That's not science. That's a way of explaining everything without God. Where's God needed in that process? Nowhere. That's why Dawkins is running around saying now we can be intellectually fulfilled atheists, because we can explain everything without God. See, if you don't think that transcends into the metaphysical, that doesn't affect the way people think, that's just science. Let me read you a quote from a Cornell biology professor who said this. This is Bill Provine. He said, "Let me summarize my views on what modern evolutionary biology tell us loud and clear. There are no gods, no purposes, no goal-directed forces of any kind. There's no life after death. When I die, I'm absolutely certain that I'm going to be dead. That's the end for me. There's no ultimate foundation for ethics, no ultimate meaning to life, and no free will for humans either." Do you guys remember the 3 big questions? There's not a test or anything, but remember those 3 big questions? Question number 1, where do we come from? According to the atheist, evolution. Question number 2, what's the meaning of life? There is no meaning to life. How can there be meaning to life if everything is the result of a random chance cosmic explosion? It's just matter and energy, right? I mean, I'm thinking something right now, my neurons fire, your guys are thinking something, your neurons fire. Stimulus, response, that's all there is, right? Oh, you love your mom? That's a really nice moral sentiment. But it's got about as much moral value as when I take a Coca-Cola and shake it up and let the fizz go. Your brains fizz one way, somebody else's brains fizz another. What happens when you die according to the atheist? Nothing. You're not going to stand in front of a holy God and be judged based on what you've done. I mean, basically, in this worldview, it's a very unfair universe. Because if you went out there and did something horrific, guess what? You get away with it? You get away with it. No judgment. Do you know how attractive a worldview with no judgment is to sinners? It's a very attractive worldview. See, this provides the atheist with a meta-narrative as well, a way of explaining everything without God. Now see, you need to understand something. I wrote an article for our website, creation.com. It's called What All Atheists Have to Believe. You know, there's different humanist groups and atheist groups and things like that out there, just like there are, because it's a worldview, just like all the religions are worldviews. And, you know, there are certain things that all atheists have to believe, okay? Number 1, if you're an atheist, you have to believe in evolution of some sort. Darwinian evolution, neo-Darwinian evolution, chaos theory, punctuated equilibrium, whatever it is. But you need to think that everything makes itself, because there's no creator, there's no God. Second thing you need to believe in, of course, is the idea of billions of years of Earth history. I mean, evolution can't take place quickly, right? That's called creation. So you have to have millions of years to evolve anything. Now, the third thing you believe as an atheist, of course, is you don't take the Bible as plainly written. You don't just look at the words and whatever it says as that's what it means. Here's the interesting thing I find, is with most young people, young Christians, they already believe all of those things. See, what happens is you first get introduced to the concept of billions of years of Earth history, which the Bible doesn't talk about. The Bible talks about a very young Earth. But you start to believe in that, and then of course you don't take the Bible as plainly written, because the Bible doesn't talk about millions of years. So you've already accepted two things. And if you're going to accept secular interpretations of geology, why wouldn't you accept secular interpretations of biology? And so most Christian young people already believe the fundamental tenets of what all atheists have to believe. And so they're ripe for apostasy. Now, what myself, the other speakers are dealing with, of course, when we're going around talking at churches, universities, wherever we're speaking to Christian groups, is that there are many Christians that are trying to blend these two worldviews together, right? well, this is my faith, and this is science, and I'm going to make it. Guys, it doesn't work. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to a formal debate. You know, that when you're at a debate, maybe you guys are somebody are on a debate team. There's rules of logic you have to adhere to in a debate situation, right? Things like the law of non-contradiction, you can't contradict yourself, etc. Let's look at these two worldviews and see if there's any contradictions. Let's keep it simple. Let's start with science, okay? The Bible says 10 times that God created kinds of creatures to reproduce after their own kind. That means dogs make dogs. People make people. Horses make horses. Apples have little seeds in them. You put them in the ground, it makes a tree that has apples on it. The theory of evolution, though, says that one kind morphs into a completely different kind over millions of years. Does that cohere? No. Let's try philosophically. What does love your neighbor and survival of the fittest have to do with each other? Nothing. That's why if you try to engage an informed skeptic, trying to argue that way, they'll rip you to shreds intellectually. Because what you will have to do is become inconsistent with what you claim to be your ultimate authority as a Christian, and that's the Word of God. You'd actually have to argue against the Bible to try to make that fit together. It's an inconsistent position. Now, when I was growing up, I used to think this was a science versus faith thing, you know? And I was an atheist, so I was thinking, man, I got science, you know? I got my geology textbook, I got a biology textbook, I got Jurassic Park. I was looking at Christians going, man, what do you got? You got some book, you don't even know who wrote it. I'm not trying to be offensive, I'm telling you how I used to think, okay? And, by the way, have you guys ever seen this? On the backs of cars? You see that all over the place, don't you? You see the Christian fish, you know? And then you see the Darwin fish. Isn't that interesting? How people are willing to take their ultimate worldviews and slap them on the back of their car? I call it car wars. I just think it's funny. No, honestly I do, you know, because at some point, like what happens? You know, you bounce your head off the pillow one morning, boop, today's the day. I'm going to get me a fish. You know, and you go down to some store, man, give me one of them fish. You pay your $10 and boom, stick it on the back of the car, you know. Tell everybody behind you what you believe about where you came from. One person's like, I came from an all-loving God. The other guy's like, I came from pond scum. That's what they're saying, aren't they? Actually, they're saying something much more. Because one person's acknowledging something. I was created. Someone owns me. And I'm responsible to them. The other person's saying, nobody owns me. That's what they're saying, folks. Now, faith versus science. I'm not a scientist. I work with lots of scientists. They're very interesting people. And very intelligent. But, see, science versus faith, I used to think that's what this was. But, you know, when I'm doing a seminar or something like that, I think I've come to know a little bit about science over the years. And when people say, well, Cal, science has proven this and science has proven that, I usually, you know, understand what they're talking about. They're usually talking about a method of science done according to the scientific method, right? That's a great way of doing science, isn't it? Yes, because it's a method of investigation involving observation, right? So you can set up an experiment in a lab, for example, and you can repeat the experiment over and over again, and you can observe the results in real time, right? It's great. But see, there's two distinct types of science. There's repeatable, observable, operational science, where you see the results right in front of your eyes. And then there's historical science, where what you're doing is taking ideas, clues that you have now, and trying to figure out what happened in the unobservable past. Okay? So for example, could you use the scientific method to prove to me that Abraham Lincoln ever existed? Nope. What type of repeatable, observable test could you set up in a lab showing me his existence? See, that's more like forensic science or historical science, like I'm talking about. By the way, what type of repeatable, observable test could you set up in a laboratory showing me ape-like creatures turning into people? Well, actually, I had a 6th grader stick her hand up one time when I said that. I said, yes. And she said, get an ape and wait. And I was like, genius. I mean, you know, she wasn't that sophisticated. She's in the 6th grade. But she understood something. Look, if that was going to be science done according to the scientific method, you would have had to make the observation. See, if you believe that ape-like creatures have turned into people over millions of years, you believe it on faith. Faith in the textbook you were taught. Or faith in the TV show you watch where they said, well, look at these skulls. We think this one turned into that one. And we believe this one turned into that one. But they didn't observe it. That's a different type of science. See, when you get into the creation evolution debate, it's more like a CSI program or The Mentalist, or I don't know what you guys are into. You probably don't even have time to watch TV if you're in university. But anyway, you ever watch one of these shows on TV, one of these investigative programs, you know? And it always starts the same way, doesn't it? It's like, dun, 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 there's a dead person. Everybody's like, ooh, what happened? Right? It's just the same deal, same setup every time. And so what they start doing, these investigators, they go around and they start picking up clues, right? Hey, we've got some evidence. Look, we've got a DNA sample. We've got let's get a blood sample here. Let's get a hair follicle. Whatever they do, right? And they pick up all these facts, things that they can see and observe. Now, when it goes to court, you've got all these facts laid out for everybody to see. Everybody's got the same information. But you've got these two opposing forces, don't you? You've got the prosecutor. And they're looking at these facts and trying to explain these facts from a very biased position. This person is guilty. That's their job, is to interpret these facts according to that presupposition. So they try to convince the jury. Look at these facts. They prove that Mr. John Doe walked into the room and pulled his gun and yada, yada, yada. He starts telling a story based on some facts, but he didn't observe the event. Of course, when the defense lawyer gets up, he goes, no, it didn't happen that way at all. Look at the facts my way. And he reinterprets the exact same facts and comes to a completely different conclusion. How can you have two different histories based on the same facts, guys? I thought the facts spoke for themselves. Facts never speak for themselves. Facts are always spoken for. The reason why you can have two different histories based on the same facts is because each person here is biased. You know, I'm biased. Totally. I'm a Christian. I've read the Bible over and over and over again. You know one of the only things I've never seen in the Bible? Evolution. It's not there. And of course you've got Richard Dawkins, and he's an atheist. Right? See, people will say to me, well, Cal, see, look, if you interpret facts according to what you pre-believe, you're not scientific. Oh, really? Well, what about the other team I was talking about? What about the atheists? How many atheists automatically interpret all the facts according to evolution? What's the percentage? You're not willing to go for it again, eh?
1.
How about 100? How many atheists, I want you to think about this, guys. How many atheists automatically interpret the evidence according to evolution? 100%. Because if you're an atheist, you have to explain how you got here without God. So guess what? I'm biased, Richard Dawkins is biased, and then you got a whole bunch of people in between going, man, how do you figure this stuff out? Well, here's a very important concept I want you guys to understand. Creationists and evolutionists have the exact same facts. We don't have different facts, guys. We've got the same facts. We're all observing natural selection. We're all observing genetic mutation. We're all observing distant starlight. We're observing rock layers with dead things in them. We're all observing the same things. But we come to different conclusions because of our starting bias. My starting bias, I'm very honest about it, is the Word of God. That's where I start my thinking from. Now, interesting that I'll even have Christians run up to me and say, yeah, but Cal, evolution's a fact. Because they've been educated that way. When in fact, the most vocal champion of atheism and evolution on the planet, Richard Dawkins, he was being interviewed on a show called Now back in 2004. And the interviewer, Bill Moyers, asked Dawkins an interesting question. He said, Richard, is evolution a theory, not a fact? Dawkins, evolution has been observed. It's just that it hasn't been observed while it's happening. Do you guys want me to run that one by you again? It's been observed, but just not when it's happening. That means it hasn't been observed. And if it hasn't been observed, then it's not empirical science. It's a belief about something that's happened in the past, based on his atheistic worldview. By the way, I'm not misquoting Dr. Dawkins here. And he's the former chair of Public Understanding of Knowledge of Science at Oxford University, right? He should know what science is based on, primarily observation. And he just dropped the ball here, because he just admitted evolution hasn't been observed. Now, you might say, well, maybe he fumbled, maybe he didn't really mean that. You can look up the transcript, this is completely in context. So a couple years later, he was on another show called The Genius of Charles Darwin. And this time he had a chance to really think about what he was saying here. Okay, it wasn't off the cuff. And here's what Dawkins said the next time. I personally think he was trying to do some